Hey everybody, this is Renae from The Space Between, and you are listening to The Space Between podcast, the show that lets you listen to how the fans feel about the music, the art behind over 30 years of the Dave Matthews Band. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. The Dave Matthews Band is going into their 33rd year in 2024, and we are just so damn lucky to continue to get this music, who has literally changed the lives of so many. And so that is what this podcast is about, is to talk about the fans behind the music and see what is the hook that keeps them coming back for more. And yes, that is lyrics from The Space Between. So welcome to the Space Between podcast. My name is Renae, and every week I bring to you a guest to talk about their journey of the Dave Matthews Band. So I have sweet Caroline here. Tell us who you are, where you are, and how in the world did you meet the Dave Matthews Band?
Okay. Thank you, Renae, for having me. I appreciate it. I've got to do many podcasts in the past few years, and this is one I've been the most excited about doing.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm like 60 podcast guests in, and this one has been like I can't wait podcast.
Oh my God,
so thank you. Thank you.
Dave is always fun to talk about.
Oh, truth. So I'm Caroline Hammond. I am from the Midwest region, specifically around about Kansas City on the Missouri side.
Yay.
And I am the founder and the executive director of an organization called Safe in Harm's Way that you can find at safeinharmsway.org. We work with people who are dealing with the sadness, the worry, the lies, screaming, fear, pain that is associated with domestic violence relationships. I came upon the Dave Matthews Band courtesy of, I want to say it was around about 1990, 1991, when Rolling Stone did an interview with Dave. And there were two things that really struck out about it. I wouldn't have found the magazine except my sister, who's Teresa, she's 3 years younger. She found it for me. And the first thing I thought was so cool was here was a white man in a band with predominantly Black people.
Yes.
I was like, ain't nothing cooler. The second thing is part of his article had to do about his love of oral sex and specifically,
Dave. Oh, Dave.
And I was like, bonus points for that man. So like who?
I mean, how could you not?
Agreed. So I just started following them then, at roughly around the time their first album came out. I think that's probably what the hype was about in Rolling Stone. And it just kind of stuck. And it grew from there. Yeah. And it's been a beautiful evolution. But that's my origin. That's my Dave origin story.
Wow. So big thank you to your sister.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She, at 3 years younger, she made different life choices. So she graduated from college and took off exploring the world.
Yeah.
I didn't graduate from college, started having kids. It took me a while to get my degree.
Yeah.
So she would pay for my concert tickets. Like
wow.
Yeah, I was so young and dumb and poor, and she would take me on concerts. And so that's how I got to start to see them.
So let's talk about your first show. Like, how did that come up again? It was probably with your sister. Where was it? I want to know every detail, because this is typically when people really get hooked, right? Like you go from loving them and being like, ooh, I want to hear everything they have, to seeing them and you're like, oh fuck, like
I'm in.
Oh God.
I'm hooked. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. He always used to start off his show in St. Louis for 2 nights, and every concert, summer concert, 2 nights in St. Louis, then he'd go to Kansas City. So we would go to both nights in St. Louis. And I remember I was sitting stage right of the show, and we were pretty good seats. My sister had, a lot more disposable income.
Yes.
We had really good seats. But the thing I love most about it, that there were 4 guys in the front row. And this was before pit. This was when, like, you had actual seats down up to the stage.
Yeah.
They were jamming out. They knew every single word. They knew the band was interacting with them. We had more fun watching those 4 guys just digging on the band than we did anything else. And but luckily, here's the clincher. My sister's then boyfriend, now husband, was one of those guys that did, it was CDs back then. So he
yeah.
did recordings of shows. So he downloaded all these Dave shows. My only perspective right then of Dave were the albums. So Keith is downloading all these shows and giving me the CDs, and I'm prepping for the concert, and I'm like, holy shit, that song lasted like 16 minutes. Like, what
Yeah.
up with that, right?
I wasn't
Like,
prepared. Like, did something happen in the crowd? Like, did they have to
Yes.
stall it out? Like, why was it 16 minutes? I need to know more.
Exactly. But that just, I was so glad for that introduction because that gave me the insight of, okay, here's what we're in for. We're in for fluidity. We're in for jam. We're in for what does the band feel like on that night.
Right.
We're in for, because also he was documenting all the shows. It was like, oh, so if he does like a 2-day stint, night 1 is completely different than night 2. And I was like, what? So
Yeah.
it was my sister and her now husband who really showed me the ropes of everything about Dave when I first started listening.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Oh my
It's so cool.
God. Wow.
So cool.
Well, I mean, and it's still that way. I think as far you talk about like watching those 4 guys and how into it they were, and that's just not changed. Well, it has changed. There's just more people doing that, right? Like there's
Right.
so many more people that really kind of dig into that. And like I know for me, like when I'm standing there at a concert and they are singing or jamming, there is no one around me. I cannot
Truth.
see you. I cannot hear you. If you're talking to me, I promise you, I don't know that you are because I am locked and loaded because
Yeah.
I want to hear every word, every made up word, every
Yeah.
whatever. I want to hear everything. And so, we're still that way. It didn't
Yeah.
change. It just got way more people, right? I love this.
I know, I do too. And I love that there have been moments on the journey that like my best friends in the world have come from people who love Dave. And so that's been beautiful. My kids, as they grew up, started to really fall in love with Dave. And my middle son, RJ, he was like, I don't even get, Mom, I don't even get like the draw. I think he's a drunkard. I don't think he knows the lyrics to his songs. Like, why does it take so long? And then in 2010, we went to Orange Beach Music Festival, and we got up front, to see Dave. And RJ was like, oh. Now he once sent me this picture, and he had Carter's soccer jersey on. He has the lyrics to Cry Freedom tattooed on his chest, and he was wearing a Dave hat, and he shot me this note, and he's like, so who is your favorite kid now?
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
yeah, right now
Yes.
you.
Yeah, that weighs a lot on mommy's heart. Like,
Exactly.
you found mommy's currency. Anything Dave Matthews.
Exactly.
You talk Dave to me. I really
Yeah.
want to be around you, right?
Exactly. I know he used that to his advantage, whether
Of
it was,
course.
out past curfew or, whatever he was doing.
Yes, of
I'm
course.
sure that was used to his advantage, for sure.
So let's talk about because obviously you saw. Wait, no, we'll edit this part out. I was fixing to say you met Dave before you had kids, but you met Dave
I met
when you
Dave
had kids.
when I had kids. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. And I want to say I met Dave, it was Des Moines. I want to say it was 2019. Might have been 28. No, it had to have been 2019. And it was at Des Moines, and Des Moines, the venue setup is interesting because you can exit the show, and then the band always exits out the back part of the venue, and it's wide open. Like people stand and wait. It's not
Right.
chaos. People are just there
Yeah.
because they know the band comes up. So I'm there with a friend, and it got to be a little weird standing in line. And I just thought, I'm not feeling the vibe right here, right now.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kind of, I think I'm going to distance myself. So I distanced myself from the crowd that was lining the perimeter. And there was like one patch of grass. It's all concrete because the buses are all pulling up. There's one patch of grass. I decided to sit down there and meditate. So I'm like sitting there and meditating, not giving two fucks what anybody thinks about the fact that I'm
Exactly.
meditating. I'm just doing my thing. The band starts to come out. And I was there for a good long time. It was like maybe an hour plus that we were waiting, and I'm just
wow.
meditating. Yeah, it was a long
Wow.
time. And as the band comes up and starting to come out, I just walk to the front. I'm not going to fight to get up there.
Yeah.
I'm just like, because I've left, right? I'm not going
Right.
to try to worm my way back in. I just wanted to watch the process. And so I come up, and there's a little part in the, like a part in the sea, right? There's a spot for me up on the rail then. So I step into it, and Dave's walking down the line. And I need to backtrack for a second. I had recently been in this relationship, and the guy said to me, I really wish you looked me in my eyes more often, like when we're talking.
Sure.
And he was taller. And I realized that after he said that, I'm like, I really was not looking people in the eyes, specifically men. There's a little bit of history to that, but I was a little bit unsure of myself, little bit
Yeah.
still feeling my way back into the world after
Sure.
some significant events. And I thought, I'll be damned. I'm looking everybody in the eye. So this is my view that I'm stepping into of me looking people in the eye.
Yeah.
So anyway, I step up to the rail, and Dave leaves the line of people that he's shaking hands. He looks at me, he waves, and he starts to walk over. And I was
What?
like,
are you about to pee in your pants when
yeah,
this is
I was
happening?
like, holy fuck.
Holy
fuck.
God. Oh
Yeah.
God. Oh
And
God.
then I was like, is he really looking at me? Like, do I turn around and act like he's not looking at me? And I thought, you know what? The first man that I implement looking somebody in the eye on is Mr. Dave Matthews.
What?
So I leaned in, and I watched him walk up to me. And people are yelling. People are like, Dave, come back. Dave, come back. Dave, come back. And the woman standing next to me is trying to like corral herself in there. And he walks straight up to me, and he says, how'd you like meditating there over on the grass? And I said,
What?
it was pretty damn cool. And he's like, yeah, it looked pretty cool. How you doing tonight? I said, I'm doing really good. Well, then I don't know that there's other people who know me in the front of the line. So they start yelling, Caroline, Caroline, Caroline. And I'm not looking any place but Dave's eyes,
Of course not.
right? I'm implementing.
This is your first time.
This is my first time doing it. And he goes, so you're Caroline? And I said, yeah. And he's like, so you got to be a pretty big deal around here then. And I said, well, I mean, it's Des Moines. Because I don't know who's yelling my name, right? I just am trying to be cool when my whole body's on fire. And he says, well, then I think we should probably get a picture together.
What?
And I said, okay. So we got a picture together. He's like, it's been great talking to you. And he left. He shook my hand. He left. He went back in the line where he had left and finished saying hello to people as he made his way around again. And that was the first time I implemented looking people in the eye. Yeah.
God.
So I have a really cool picture. It's really cool. It's really cool.
My
Yeah.
God. Oh my God. What an amazing story. Like the first time you were brave enough and that you gave yourself permission to do that. Of course it was a significant event in general.
Yeah.
But the fact that it happened to someone that you really did admire,
Yeah.
right? That you did see love in, and that it wasn't just some random
Yeah.
creature. Like you really looked into his eyes and saw things because you know him, right? You know what I mean? You don't know, but you know him. You know what
You're
he does on
right.
stage, right?
Yeah.
What a gift.
I know.
Ooh.
It was so damn cool. It was so damn cool.
Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. And so that was
I know.
2020 when? 20
I want to say 2019.
Okay.
Because I was coming home. The reason I'm doing that is I had a heart incident in 2018, and there was a news show that was documenting my heart incident. So I had to come back from Des Moines to do a TV show, and that would have been a year later. So that's like a very long explanation, but that's how I've lodged it in my head. But it was before COVID, so it had to have been 2019.
Can I ask a really nursey question since I'm
Yeah.
a nurse? Did
Yeah.
you find meditation after your heart event?
I found regularly, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meditation sounds to a lot of people so woo-woo, but there really is science behind it.
Oh, yeah.
And the way I mean it's so helpful, especially for people that have stress, anxiety, even maybe depression, but yes, also not bigger things, heart things is
Right.
equally as important as your brain, right? So
Agreed.
whew,
Yeah.
I love that you were able to
Yeah.
find that at a Dave Matthews Band concert, because a lot of people
know.
would hear this and go, you mean to tell me that you could sit and meditate at a concert?
Yeah, pretty much anywhere when it's needed.
That's amazing that you're able to
Yeah.
like shut off the world. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're comfortable, let's dig into that, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are some things that you kind of went through the Dave Matthews Band, and did the community around the band help you in those times of need?
Sure. I love that question because while safeinharmsway.org is built entirely for survivors of domestic violence, I am a survivor of domestic violence. Now, I never would have labeled myself as that. People really thought we were the golden couple.
Yeah.
But I could have sure told you the lies, the worry, the screaming, the fear, the pain, right? All the feelings, I could talk to you about that.
Sure.
What I discovered was 4 weeks before our planned and paid for wedding, I discovered his secret life. And his secret life, while he presented to me to be a monogamous heterosexual, he was actually having sex with anything that would allow him. And that included men in back parking lots, and it included multiple women when I traveled for work. And most egregiously, it included him belonging to an organization, a club in Kansas City, that taught men how to drug and incapacitate their partners so that they could be raped and it could be filmed. And I'll pause here and say that if anybody's triggered by this story, you can get onto RAINN, RAINN, fabulous, incredible website. You can call the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence 24/7, 142 languages, including hearing impaired, enabling people to find the help they need. So when I accidentally found that on his computer, what I also discovered is that there were nights I did not remember. That there
Oh my
were
God.
nights that I was places that I only know I was there because I found it on his computer. And I could have told you that there were really weird things. I'll get a little intimate because people think, well, that's insane. How did you not know? There were instances where I dismissed things on my body or happening to my body as maybe I worked out too hard and I got too sweaty and I didn't change my underwear in enough time. Sure. Maybe the elliptical was just, I rode that elliptical way too hard and, damaged myself in some way, and I need to be better aware. I never, ever, ever would have said to you, I think the man who claims to love me is drugging me. But I could tell you all his emails to people started out with, my girlfriend has no idea I'm doing this, and I will facilitate what could be done to her. So that realization, of course, set off insanity. And
Oh my God.
yeah, pretty sick motherfucker. What I discovered about him was even more egregious than that, if you can get more egregious.
Right.
The reason I decided to talk about it is, I mentioned in the beginning, I've done probably 60 podcasts. I've written several books. I've started an organization. There is not a time that I talk about this, including speaking in front of 750 lawyers, prosecutors, and judges, that I don't have people come up to me, pull me aside in tears and say, shit,
Yeah.
I think that's what's happened to me.
Oh my God. I was not
And
expecting you to say that.
if you want to find a really great podcast about it and a great webinar about it, there's an organization called domesticshelters.org. And on November 11th of 2021, they did a webinar about this exact type of abuse. And think about it. There is a club in Kansas City, Missouri that teaches men how to do this. So this is prevalent.
Can you Google it? Like, is it just something you can go find on the...
No, it was hidden. I found it because back then Craigslist was really big. I don't know what they use it under now. I've Googled, I still work with the FBI. If the FBI could have been able to find that he did this to me for money or in exchange of services, there would have been 34 counts of interstate sex trafficking.
Oh my God.
There was no money train. They couldn't find any exchange of goods or services, which meant he just did this because it's what got him off. So there was no recourse at the time. I've subsequently found out through different investigators that I actually do have recourse, and there's no statute of limitations. So right now I'm writing and I'm documenting that choice of whether or not I want to proceed. I've crafted and created an incredible life. Whatever my brain is keeping away from recognition is keeping it away. That could let loose at any point.
Yes.
Statistically, if somebody would undergo hypnosis to try to bring memories out, 75% of memories are inaccurate. Your brain has crossed like many different scenarios and spit something out under hypnosis. So I would never really know if that was true or not.
That's true. I've just recently learned that about memories, and it floored me. Even as a nurse, like it made everything I believed questionable at that point.
Yeah.
Everything that I believed. Not most things.
Yeah.
Most things.
Yeah.
Because if it's really true, then what the hell we're remembering of our version or something.
Yes, you're exactly right. And I think that'll probably be a good time. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pause here and say to you, because if you have questions, you're probably having the same questions that everybody else would have. And as I said, I've written books. I've done a bunch of podcasts. If you have any questions, I'd be honored to answer them, because I want people to feel. I mean, this is about Dave, and there's really great parts that came in the after. But for this particularly, especially if anyone has ever experienced that, this is an opportunity for people to feel less shame, less alone in their own journey, especially if you are someone who's never raised your hand to say, oh, I think this might have happened to me. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them.
Yes. Okay. I hope, I am a natural question. I love questions. I was always taught by my grandmother, questions are how we learn more. Right. And I believe that. So I ask people questions all the time, and I've been told that's an annoying habit, but in this case, we're going to say it's a great thing. Okay.
It is. I agree. It is.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. Yes.
Thank you. So as questions come along, we'll just answer. Well, I'll just answer them. You might, whatever you think about as it goes along, let me know.
Okay.
But I had traveled to so many different places with my former fiance and loved the band. And I really worried I would never want to hear them again.
Ooh, yeah. I can see that.
So I escaped, and the reason safeinharmsway.org is built is because I knew very much where I did not win the lottery. So I wanted to create tools and resources for anybody like me where these are the ways we did not win. And then I also wanted to create the tools and the resources for where I did win, because I know that was not what happened to me. I'll give you one example, is not carried across the board. So I had 30 years of being a pharmaceutical rep. I had a company car paid for. I had a credit card. I made high six figures a year. When I escaped, and that escape plan took about 10 days to craft and about 7 months for me to implement, all keeping it secret, I still ended up living out of my car, even with a six-figure job, even with a credit card, because what happens across this country is there is no room in domestic violence shelters. They are constantly full. So I thought my initial thing was I'm going to stay in the house. And then that was not going to be. The thought of even being in that house when I didn't even...
Oh, God, yes. Yes, I totally... Yes.
And I thought, well, I'll go to a shelter. There was no shelter. I have amazing friends, and I have kids that I could have stayed with. But I was getting constant daily text messages from him saying, don't worry, sweet pea, I'll find you, and we'll die together.
Oh, shit. So you didn't want to put your friends in harm's way, right? Exactly.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep. So if I was traveling for work, boom, I had a hotel. If I wasn't traveling for work, I house sat. If I couldn't house sit for people, I stayed in my car. There were times that I did go ahead and brace courage and stay with my daughter, especially when my boys, one boy was traveling and my youngest was just graduating from high school. And there were 7 adults in a 650 square foot apartment. We had blow up mattresses in the kitchen. We had blow up mattresses in the living room, which was all one just big room. So I did stay with them. And it was those moments that as a family, we started to process what happened to us and come back together. Because one of the ways I won the lottery is I do not share any children with this man. So that was a really big way that I won the lottery.
Yes.
Yeah. So I knew I needed to create something for people where I did win and where I didn't win. And that started to happen. And so then when I finally found a place to live, I'm there. I'm on the Dave Matthews message boards because I'm trying to like ease back in. Like, is it going to make me sick to my stomach? Am I going to love it?
Yeah.
And I get this message from a man named Hunter and his wife Morgan. And that's when the first Mexico trip was announced. And Hunter says, hey, we've been on the message boards looking for people who look cool and whose vibe and answering other messages seems pretty cool. And also who has a high number on the first people who get to go for tickets. And you fit our bill. Would you mind talking to us? Would you mind talking to us about Mexico? Now think about this for a minute. I have found out that after 8 years, the person I was set to marry has lived a secret life, including all kinds of strangers that I did not know. And here's a stranger reaching out to me saying, do you want to go to Mexico with us for 5 days?
Did that trigger you?
It did. But I also thought, I mean, I still am in therapy and I was doing therapy then. And I thought, okay, one of our hashtags for Safe in Harm's Way is intentionally fearless, because there's never going to be a time that I will live in complete lack of fear, but I can make intentional choices that allows me to be fearless. So my former husband is a police officer, so he ran their record. He ran all of their records in every state. My aunt lived in the same city.
That was a blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah.
Like that was
yeah.
like we said
Yeah, and my aunt lives in the same city, so I went down and spent my money to go down to Dallas and hang out with Hunter and Morgan and did all that homework and joined the Facebook group. And that got me meeting all kinds of people, and that got me excited about the show. And then it turned out that I lived less than 2 miles away from somebody who's my favorite person in the world, Haley Lewis. She lives just 2 miles away from me. She was going. Oh, there's my alarm. Sorry about that. She was going. There were other people in Kansas City going. And all of a sudden it felt like, okay, like I think I could do this. I really think I could do this, because you're getting to know people leading up to the event.
Right.
And so I did. I went. I had an incredible time. I met people who are my lifelong friends today.
Yes.
My chosen family.
Yes.
Because I made the choice of, these are Dave people.
That's right.
These are Dave people.
I love what you said, chosen family. That is, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So I met so many people. Kim Bolger, Jamie Kennedy. I mean, it's just like incredible people that I'm still close to today. And then we've all met other people along on the journey, Lindsay Costello, and just all of these and just incredible humans who embraced me and I embraced them. And I could segue back and still fall in love with a band that I absolutely adored for so many years. Yeah. And never have I gone to a show and had a flashback or a moment that made me wince because I would have heard that same song or anything with the person that I escaped from. Not once.
It was like the community of the Dave Matthews Band fans was literally the doorway to get you back to the music safely, right?
Safely.
Ooh.
I know.
Ooh, that's such a great picture, right?
I know.
I love that. And then, guys, if you're listening to this and you don't know what we're talking about, well, I mean, that's what this podcast is about, right? Is there's a substantial story about the fans behind the Dave Matthews Band. And if you're not familiar with them, they're a band that's celebrating their 33rd year of making music, and they're, I mean, they have been around since 1991. So imagine the changes. These guys have grown up before us. We have gotten older on the other side of the stage, right? But like, it is a very common story to hear that people in 1991 that first heard about this band are still going to their concerts and still very passionate about this music. But then along the way, in 33 years, they've picked up such a huge following. We often joke that the Dave Matthews Band only has 35,000 fans, right? But they all go to every single show. And if that's true, that's cool, because these 35,000 people, I have only met like a couple of assholes. And those statistics are pretty awesome for a fan base. But it's exactly like what you're talking about. These people really do, a lot of these people really do just surround themselves around others with the intention of just being to like spread love. And I mean, that's something that we see commonly at concerts, people passing out stickers saying spread love, love in general. And there's a whole story behind those love signs, and we're going to talk about that on the next couple of episodes. But that is the theme around this band, is they've created a community of people that really want to love and serve others. And so what a great time to enter in when you needed all of those things. You needed all of that. And that's not something that's really easy to find. But it still exists. I often say, you turn on the TV and you see a lot of negativity, and there always will be. Right. We're not a perfect world. We will never be a perfect world. But I do like to be just a tiny little reminder in this tiny little podcast that good things are still happening, and we cannot forget that. And that's what this podcast is about, is because there's such a great story of love behind a band, and what keeps them coming back for more, right? So like, you are introduced to all these people, and so you're going to these shows. So like, what does it look like now, even now, like when tour dates come out? Like, are you texting your friends going, hey, like, what shows are you going to? Is that what it looks like in your life?
Yeah, it does. I went out to dinner with a friend who lives in Kansas City. She's a huge Dave fan, and we went out to dinner, and she's like, what shows did you put in for? And I said, well, I'm doing Europe. So I didn't put anything in for the summer because I'm also trying to do the bourbon and blues, or bourbon and whatever in Kentucky. I said, so if I do Europe and I do Kentucky, like, I will find my way into shows across the summer, but I'm not committing.
Of course.
But yeah, like, so she, we're exchanging the tours, we're exchanging the shows that we want to see. I know that I'll pick up more along the way with friends.
It's just what happens.
It does. And just the community. My daughter went with me to Mexico, I think the third or fourth year. And, she's been a big fan for forever. And she walked to the pool, and she's like, after about 20 minutes, she leans over and she's like, I'm going to need a break. And I said, why? And she said, all these people know me. I said, they do. Do you remember last year when they were all texting you on your birthday? And she's like, this is so cool, but it's also overwhelming for an extroverted introvert who needs her downtime.
Of course.
She's like, I have walked into people who know me for what seems like my whole life, and I'm just meeting them, and I just need to process that for a little bit. And she was fine. She loved the entire time. She had a great time. And of course, she's now putting faces with names and stories and all of that. But and what we did in anticipation of that is our core group that was doing that about 3 months before that, maybe even longer, before that stint, we were using Marco Polo to communicate with each other every day. So it wasn't uncommon to open Marco Polo and have 12 videos waiting between the 8 of us, all communicating back and forth. So,
yeah, but what a great story for your daughter in the future, when she reflects back on her life and she thinks, well, and as she meets other people and compares, like, or not compares, but like, how do other people live their life, and what does their life look like, and what does their life like?
Yeah.
When she describes her life, it was just surrounded by like what's going to seem like a million aunts and uncles, right? Like they are just, they know you, they're texting you on your birthday, like they're invested in your mom. And because they're invested in their mom, they're invested in you now.
Yeah.
Because that's how this
beautiful.
works, right? It is
It's
so beautiful.
so beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of talk about 2018. I mean, not only was it an album release year, right, and an amazing album, Come Tomorrow by the Dave Matthews Band, it was a big year in your personal life. So let's talk about what 2018 looks like for you.
I was coming off of Mexico and meeting all these people, and I was also starting Safe in Harm's Way. And I decided I was going to start this organization without knowing everything and be willing to make mistakes. That is not me. I am a firstborn, oldest, everything is in order kind of gal. Yes. And I am going to jump into creating an entirely new entity without knowing all the answers. And it was expensive. I mean, I found out that to do a nonprofit correctly, to really get it set up and not raise flags from the IRS from the get-go, you needed a lawyer. And that lawyer was around about $7,000.
Yikes.
So I made a connection, told my story to this lawyer. I go down, we're filling out the paperwork, and she says, I want to share something with you. And I say, okay. She says, like, I need to put good out into the world. Like, what you're doing is going to help so many people, including people I know and love. I am gifting you my entire services.
Oh my God.
To set up your nonprofit. So of course I go home and I Marco Polo, you know, all the girls.
Yes, everybody.
I Marco Polo all the girls. And they're responding and they have like this, I don't know, like a vibe, like a little grin. And we had set up a Zoom call that night. And I just thought they were excited about me. So we get on the Zoom call and they had gotten together. They did homework on what it would cost to actually do some of the filings that a lawyer wouldn't cover. And they all chipped in and raised the money to cover the lawyer fees itself, and then ran it through Jamie Kenney's work company so that they could match the funds. So in one day, I had the entire safeinharmsway.org nonprofit done and fueled by my friends from the Dave Matthews Band.
Oh my God.
And they, like, Kim Bolger has donated so much money from her Rodan and Fields business. Michelle, Maureen, they've donated so much money come back. Anna and Randy Scott, like people across my Dave network have donated. Haley Lewis, who I said I met from the beginning, has gone through and created Excel spreadsheets for me because I don't know how to do Excel. Right. I mean, the people have just come across. There was Randy, I'm going to be traveling Europe with Randy, and Randy had a heart condition when he was traveling the last time in Italy. So Amy Humphreys gets a hold of me and she's like, I think that Randy's having the same heart stuff that you had. Like, can you get a hold of him and tell his doctor in Italy what they did to you? Because, you know, there's a communication barrier and maybe the technology is not the same and he needs to know about it. So we conduct all that for Randy while he's traveling in Europe and has a heart issue. He now has the same device I do. And they gave me this cardiac Dave fire dancer that they bought from Suzanne. Like, it's just like these.
Oh my God. It's
these beautiful
stories.
all of the things. At the Gorge, the first time I went to the Gorge would have been my 105th show. And I didn't get there in time to get the poster. And so Randy contacts me and he's like, hey, I hear you didn't get the poster for your big show. You know, it was like a whatever Hallmark show. He's like, I got it for you. I'm going to frame it. I'm going to send it to you. Like that kind of stuff that just.
Now, I mean, obviously we all have lives outside of the Dave Matthews Band. Have you ever been a part of a community that has, I guess, invested this much into your personal life like the Dave Matthews Band has?
I am very fortunate. One of the ways I won the lottery is I have an incredible group of Kansas City friends.
Awesome.
And incredible group that rose up just as much in the helping plan the escape and into the after of supporting Safe in Harm's Way. And the beautiful thing is my Kansas City friends who are not Dave, they're not Dave fans.
Yeah.
They're so interested in it. Like if there's a concert that he's playing and we can all go to, they want to go. There's
Of course.
nothing more beautiful in my world
Oh, yeah.
than my Kansas City friends knowing my Dave friends and then commenting on each other's Facebook posts because we've all hung out and traveled the country together.
Oh,
like
I love
that's
that.
that kind of, and it's because both group of friends are open. Both groups of friends are invested in people and kindness.
Yes.
Both groups of friends conduct themselves with a level of, hey, there's more the merrier.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's beautiful. It's so
Imagine
beautiful.
this. Imagine. Oh my God.
Imagine.
The things that you're saying just make sense.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Isn't that
Just
crazy?
be kind. Just love others.
Exactly. So I can give a couple examples. We were going to go to Jazz Fest and Dave was playing, and Lindsay Costello needed a place to stay, and I was going with my Kansas City friends, and they've met Lindsay before, and they're like, we're in a packed house. And they're like, it's Lindsay? Bring her. Like it's,
Yes.
of course she can hang out. When the Europe tour was announced for this spring, I've been very fortunate to do the work of Safe in Harm's Way across the world. And there have been people I've met before, during, and after that journey that once the tour dates were announced, they are not Dave fans, but I got all these text messages like, are you coming to Europe? Are you coming to Europe? Hey, I want to go see Dave with you when he comes to Florence. And then let's go back and stay at my house for a few days. And can we meet all your Dave friends? Like that's always, it's like a two-pronged thing. Hey, are you coming? Three-pronged. Are you coming to Europe? Can I go see Dave with you? And can I meet all your Dave friends? I'm like,
I love it. Like they want to be part of this life, right? Like they just, or at least want to see you in the middle of it, right? Because it's cool to watch, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're like,
or crazy. I don't know which one.
All of it. A little bit of cool and crazy. It's all of it. Yeah. Okay, so what song do you chase? Like what song? I'm curious about this because my group of because we play a game of my because I grew up in St. Louis. My St. Louis friends, Dave friends in St. Louis, play the game of what song would you give up hearing in order to hear?
Ooh.
Because it's not your favorite song. Somebody said, well, that's just asking what your favorite song. I'm like, not with a Dave person. Your favorite song could change because of what you're living at life, because of the mood, because of the day, because of the season. So but if you had to pick and give up the one song you want to hear in order to hear a certain other song, what song would you give up?
Is it okay here's my in real life answer. So I want to be real savvy when I say that. Is it IRL? Wait, is that right? Did I say it backwards? In real life?
You did.
I was like, what the hell are they talking about on TV? And I was like, oh, everybody's talking in text now.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, now I got to know all of that.
More things to learn. Okay, so for real, my answer is in 2023, I got everything that I ever wanted on my chase list.
Ooh.
I really did. I really, really, really did. Well, actually, that's not necessarily. Well, it is, but it started in 2022 when I got shotgun in Austin. Like that was something that I just never thought could or would happen. Like I didn't even suspect, but it was always something that was on the top of my mind. Like once I had heard that, well, I mean, this is a whole different podcast to describe shotgun because like it is, I have so many questions. I have so many questions. Dave, if you listen to this, like I don't want to talk about Dave Matthews Band when I'm talking to Dave Matthews. I really don't. So Dave, I just want to hang out and like have a beer, like around a campfire, like with 100 friends. And I just want to shoot the shit, like, and no cameras, no nothing. It's going to be awesome, Dave. So call me.
Yeah.
Rob's got my number. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I got everything I wanted, but now like, what do you got to chase something, right? Because you got to chase something. But no, I don't like your game. I don't want to give up anything. No, I refuse to answer that. I mean, because I don't know what's coming, right? Because there have been songs that have snuck up on me, even when I known them forever, but they snuck up on me on this particular day when I was feeling this particular way. And I was like, I had heard it for the first time for what it actually was. Oof. And so I can't wish away any songs because I don't know when that thing is going to come get me.
Okay, so what can you remember one song that just got you that you felt like you heard it for the first time?
I don't want to give the standard answer, but like, because this is a common answer, and I don't even want to cry on this podcast, but like Gray Street, right? Because like I did break free. And I did a lot of things that are a lot of Dave Matthews Band songs. And like I got, Gray Street. I'm not going to talk about that, but not on this podcast. But I got break free tattooed as a reminder that you can break free. You can.
Yeah.
And that's a reminder because, and I needed that a long time ago, but I needed that now, and I need it every day as a reminder. Because there's always shit, right? Like there's never ending amount of shit that's coming at you, that's about to get you, that's 10 years ahead of you. And I need that daily reminder that I can break free. I can.
Yeah.
And I can
love
continue to do so. So yeah, I'm not wishing away any songs.
Okay. Actually, you know what? I fully loved, received, and good on you.
Was that like the corniest answer? Because when it's the way I feel, it's like how much I love this band.
I know. That's true. For me, I love Gray Street lyrically, musically. I love that they can jam out on that song for like, I once heard like a 24-minute version. It's incredible. But it also, it makes me a little sad. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a sad song.
It is. But, and I'll be the first to say, I don't care to hear it at every show. I really don't. It has that thing, but like you just said, it can take me back to shit that I don't necessarily want to dig up at that moment, right?
Right. But to your point, I think it's a bomb that, like, for me, the whole she feels like kicking it out all the windows and setting fire to this life.
That's the good part.
She would change everything about it using colors bold and bright, right?
Yes.
Like that was my anthem during planning my escape.
Yes.
That was my anthem. And so while it digs up, I think the beauty of their music and the beauty of the lyrics is while it digs up the stuff that you don't necessarily want to talk about, it's a balm. It's a nice, beautiful healing salve that goes over any wound associated.
And a reminder that you fucking did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how I'm going to look at it now. Girl, it was a survival story.
Exactly.
A survival story.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what he wrote it as, but that's how I took it.
Me too.
And art is up for interpretation until we have this sit down with Dave.
Yeah.
That we don't want to talk about the Dave Matthews Band too. But I have so many questions.
I know.
And honestly, like I say all the time that I'm going to write shit down. And like, if I ever have the opportunity to have a 60-minute interview with Dave Matthews Band, here's the shit I want to ask him. I need to write that shit down. But then also I think I look like a weirdo if I keep a journal of things I'm going to ask Dave Matthews when I meet him.
Ain't nobody got to know about that. Ain't nobody got to know about that. Sister, bring your cell phone, give yourself a notes recording, title it Grocery List, and nobody's got to know that you're keeping a secret list of the questions you're going to ask Dave.
Well, except that I just admitted it on this podcast.
That's okay. We're going to ask people to forget about that.
Write your wishes down, ladies, because it might actually happen, and then you'll look back and be like, I wrote it into existence. So I'm about to write down, I need 60 minutes of an interview with the Dave Matthews Band on the Space Between podcast. Boom.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to have you change. I just learned this this week. It's not an I'm going to statement. It's I have decided that I'm interviewing the Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like an I have decided versus I'm going to. And I'm going to keeps it all the way out in the future. I've decided means it's done. I've
So,
decided
and
it's
here would
done.
be my purpose, just because I feel like it needs clarifying. I don't want to meet the band and ask them about the band. I've said that like 3 times now. I want to sit down with them, and I know the answer to this question before I even ask it but my question would be, and a very in-depth question where I'm going to have like stories and facts and figures and shit. But like, I want to know if they are aware truly, or even if they want to be aware of the magnitude of greatness and love that is their fan group. Like I just want them to know what they
Yeah.
have like triggered for so many people.
Yeah.
The magnitude of it, because it's
Yeah.
not like every band has this following in this fan group and oh they're so great, and that's true. I believe it. I believe there's other great bands with other great fans, but like I think the band should know how many lives they've saved and maybe even some specifics about that. But then also I'd really like to ask them, you know, some questions about how they got there. But that's not the story, right? Like that's not going to happen. But I'll write it down in my book. We'll see what happens.
I like it. You got to
We'll see what
manifest
happens,
that
man.
shit. Got to manifest
Call
that shit.
me. Call me.
Exactly.
Anyways, okay, let's get back to you though.
I just think the evolution for what the band has brought to my life, for what it's brought to my organization, because I'm a big believer in the power of music. And so when I expose people that we work with who are healing from domestic violence, and I use music as a tool, that comes from the love of this band. And believe it or not, when you're someone who loves music, you take that for granted.
Yeah.
And when you expose somebody who has been through a myriad of situations that have just dismantled them from the inside out, and you offer something free and a choice, and that's music, and they've never discovered that before, you change lives.
Yeah,
and it's
you do.
something when you take it for granted of, that's always been part of who I was. I think it's because my parents listen to music all the time. That's always been, I listen to music all the time, so my kids have that. I just think that exposes people to healing methods that they would not have normally been aware of, whether it's Dave Matthews or anything else. So the components of if you look at what the band and what the chosen family in this band has brought, it has been able to bring music to other people. It has been able to bring collaboration to other people who felt marginalized. It's been able to tell the story about how you can be intentionally fearless and go to a foreign country with strangers after you escaped a crazy man. It's like, it's really all of these things. Mm-hmm. It's being able to say, they all knew my daughter. Yeah. Before they even met my daughter. It's all of these things that open people who don't have that. Because if you really want to be honest about the relationship that this band brings to people, we are so fucking lucky.
We are.
We're not damn lucky. We are so fucking lucky. And we get to bring that to other people who have not experienced that kind of friendship, who've not experienced that kind of openness, who've not experienced that. And when we do that by example and storytelling, firm believer in storytelling changing the world, then we impact lives, lessen the shame and silence in their own lives, and give them the hope that they can do the same.
Yes, give them a tool, right? Because that's what music can be. It's what it is. It can be a tool. It can actually be a key to unlock something in your brain to make things better, right? Like it actually does work that way. It is
does.
Such a science. And so yeah, let's talk about a little, like, okay, you're going to Europe, you're standing you're with strangers, they want to be part of your world. How do you prepare them for the craziness of the Dave Matthews Band?
I actually have a playlist on Spotify that's all live music of concerts I've been to that I give everybody. So I think it's public on Spotify, but I can give it to you if you want it for the show notes.
But we do. And we'll put a link to that.
Yeah, and then I give them like a 5-page document that tells them this is the song. It's right here.
Yes.
They get the document. that it tells them the song, why the song is a favorite, the lyrics of what that song means to me or to members of my family. So, for example, my youngest son loves Big-Eyed Fish, and he always thought that it was just about fish, right? And the beauty of that song that I love is that it's like, be who you're supposed to be, right? Don't try to be somebody else.
That's right.
But as a little kid, he thought it was about fish. My daughter loves Jimmy Thing. If I go to a show and they play Jimmy Thing and I don't send it to her, she's pissed because as a little girl, she thought, the Sure Don't Care, Bereaved as I'm Feeling was Sir Donkey, Sir Donkey. She thought it was about Shrek. Shrek's here and we're breathing. Like she had like all these things. Now she'll say, Mom, stop telling that Jimmy Thing story because I really love Gray Street. She's like, like she's morphed in her thing.
You can love both. But I love that story. Thank you for sharing.
So, but it's all those stories. It's like, it's links to every article that Dave has ever talked about oral sex. It's like, it's everything you would want to know.
We just need them to know what they're coming into. Like, we're about to probably talk about sex and drugs, so get ready.
Exactly. So it's all in there. It's all in there. And they have the playlist, and so they get it. And the beauty of that is, like, they take it seriously. Like, they do their homework.
Like homework, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, they're studying for the concert. But, I mean, that sounds a lot like the fan base, right? Like we're breaking down statistics thanks to all the many apps like, the Hub and the DMB Almanac. Like those guys have given us the ability to turn into geeks. And now you're just like passing the torch, right? Like this is how we do it. We study, we see what's rare. We see what's like played a lot. Like we know some shit before we show up.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Not to say that you have to know that to go to a concert. Please do not think that if you were listening in, because that would make you feel like
intimidated.
You have to know something. And I swear to God, I am the freak that is representing myself. And that's how I show up to a Dave concert. But not everyone does. So I don't want to paint that picture. So I apologize for that.
No, I think that's good, though, because I think you brought up a great point. You don't have to invest like that.
God, no.
But, there's the ability to do the homework and find out, what songs you might love. Like I talked about the story of realizing that they were a jam band, that a song could last 16 plus minutes. I would not have known that if somebody hadn't given me the recordings. I wouldn't have known that, so it's just, it just allows you. I was at a show once with one of my very dearest friends, Kathy, and we were at University of Champaign-Urbana, and she was taking so long in the bathroom, and I'm waiting for her in the seats. And I was like, what up? And she's like, I thought I was going to have to slap one of those goddamn 16-year-old girls across the face because all she wanted to do was shut up about how long Gray Street was. And I was like, look here, bitch. Like, if you don't know Genius, you need to shut the fuck up. And I was like, you're not making friends. You're not making friends.
We're defending the music as if it is our baby, right? Like that is my motherfucking song, and you will not talk about it like
that. Do
not
in a bathroom stall on a college campus. Like she's taken on.
But we are preaching love and positivity. No one's getting. But we will think some things like, motherfucker, you should shut the fuck up.
I'm like, you didn't say that, did you? She's like, no, but I thought it. I thought it an awful lot.
Exactly. I can't control my thoughts all the time.
I thought about it an awful lot.
But yes, no, that's so. Oh my God, that's so funny. Oh my God. Yeah. So they've got this 5 sheets. They're reading through it. They're doing their homework. Like they're ready. So then you show up. Would you say that like what they thought their experience would be and what actually happened were the same thing?
No, better.
Okay. Yay!
Better. Yeah, because to your point, like how intimidating is it to have one of your friends go, there's a playlist, and here's 5 pages of things I'd like you to know. Right? So even if they do the homework.
Yeah, because if someone were to mail me that from another band, I'd be like, I just want to show up and like let it rain over me. I don't want to have any, just let it happen, right? So intimidating.
Yeah. Like, hey, I thought we were just going to Jazz Fest to get drunk. Like, now I got to learn something.
This is a lot.
Yeah, this is a lot. So they all, like, it's exceeded it because they've met incredible people who love the band, because they've met They have a genesis of some songs.
Yes.
They have my take on those songs,
Yes.
but they've just gone to experience it. But I think it truly comes back to the fans. They've entered into an experience to which they are naive. And what they've done is seen people who love it and who will stop and explain, like, oh my God, this part you're going to love.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yes.
where does that happen in any place else? So they'll walk away going, that was cool. And my friend Shannon took her boyfriend to Mexico one year, and Andre spent like the whole next day telling us about the lyrics and saying, no, do you know what he says? And we're all just being very polite. Like Kim, I think, has 300 shows, Michelle and Maureen have in the 100 shows. I got 100
Wow.
plus. And we're all like, oh, that's great, Andre. Yeah. He's like, no, I mean, do you get how lyrically brilliant they are? And I'm like, yeah, isn't that cool?
Yes. Yeah, we just have like a cry session and talk about it and be like, oh my God. Yes.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's the beauty of the people. It always comes back to the beauty of the people, the care of the people, the investment of the people that travel around for this band and then are so willing. And like you said, there's a few assholes here and there, but there's always going to be.
It's going to happen.
But the beauty of people deciding, I'm going to ensure that this person I don't know has as great an experience at this show as I am about to have. So come on, take my hand, let's go do it. It's beautiful, and it just comes back to that kind of fuel that re-engages me, because I think some people, you can have these moments where like, I need a break, like an introverted extrovert showing up at Mexico, like I need a break. But it just gives you the opportunity to meet new people, learn new things. And when it's done in an audience that truly is kind and invested, people walk away with like, oh, that was way more than a show.
Yeah.
It's kind of lovely.
Like a whole, I mean, again, this is just me, but I go away with like a feeling, like not just it's like a whole experience. It's like this whole, like it changed my heart, it changed my soul, it changed my mind, it changed my eyes, it tapped into parts of me that I didn't even know or didn't even remember. And like it's a whole, I guess, spiritual. Would that be the right?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
I really do believe it.
For me, it is. I don't know about everybody else. I can't speak your story, but like my story is, that's what I get from it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's absolutely lovely. I mean, it really is absolutely lovely. And just the moments for me, for my kids, where people were kind to them. I remember just the natural parting of the waves that got us right up on stage in Orange Beach. And just like the beauty of people saying to my kids, come up and get close. Like, that's cool. And my daughter was just, I wish I could remember the song. I don't, but she was just jamming out on it. And this woman was next to her, and Kate looked at her and she said, I'm just so happy right now. And this stranger just took her by the face and said, I am too. Let's hold hands. Aww. And they held hands and like just jammed out on the show. Right?
I love that.
That's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Oh my God. I love that so much. So let's talk about 2024. I feel like that's worth talking about. Of course, Europe, everybody's talking about that. Well, everybody's talking about Mexico right this second, and then we're going to talk about Europe, and then as soon as Europe's over, we're going to talk about Florida, right? Like, it's always a jumping conversation, and social media moves with, there's definitely an expiration date of topics, right? Like, you can't be talking way about back here when we're right here during tour season. So, like, what does 2024 look like to you? And, like, are you excited about anything in particular? And why, like, and what do you want to see happen this year, if you can request anything?
I am so looking forward to Europe because the venues are smaller. I think it's going to be an intimate experience. There's going to be stops along the way where all my friends are meeting all my day friends. There's, again, nothing that gives me more joy.
It's going to be wild.
It's going to be so cool. We're doing Milan, Florence. I'm going then to London, coming back to Venice for a while just to hang out. And then we're doing Brussels, Paris, and Lisbon.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Oh
that'll
my God.
be.
That's going to be amazing.
I know. And then doing the Kentucky thing. I want to keep calling it bourbon and
Yeah,
bubbles,
no,
but I don't
yep.
think that's it. Is that it? What is it? Bourbon and
It's
something.
something, something, and that's all you have to say is Kentucky and bourbon, and we're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna
And
be there.
and I have some plans already, although I would love to get back to the gorge because that was just incredible. And you did stellar on your analyzation of the gorge. Like for anybody who's
Oh,
new, your tutorial on that was just spot on. It was
thank you.
amazing. And that's
Thank
another
you.
thing. People like Kristen, who does the gold camping and does the Freaks on Parade and organizes all that.
Yes,
She's
yes.
done birthday fundraisers for Safe and Harm's Way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've actually been able to help a lot of people, friends of friends who had instances where things weren't going so great. So I've been able to help their friends through Safe and Harm's Way. And so those, I would love to get back to the gorge, but I don't know that that's in the cards for me. We've got some
Yeah.
pretty big plans for Safe and Harm's Way, and so I'll have to like navigate that with Europe and with Kentucky. But my immediate plan is to I haven't did not put in for any shows for the summer, but I figure I'll hook up along the way with somebody. Somebody's always willing
You
to sell
will.
something,
That's
and
right. I mean, life happens, right? Like,
yeah,
life continues to happen even when the Dave Matthews Band is playing. And we don't like to admit that sometimes. We're like, clearly, I'm going to be at 12 shows.
right,
Clearly. And then you're like, wait, but also, I totally forgot that I had 4 kids and a job, right? Like,
yeah, yes,
so like life happens and then people get so eager and but we buy all the tickets and then we're like fuck. So tickets are always for sale. I always say that, like, tickets are always for sale, and that's something that the community really does take care of their own. We do make sure, well, as best as we can. There are so many good admins on so many of the Facebook sites that, are ticket sales for exactly what they
yeah,
got them for. There's no I can only speak for a few groups that I've seen, but they really do try to control what's going on all the other fucking
yeah.
ticket sites. Can I get an amen? Because we
Amen.
got to take care of our people, and so there's always tickets. I say that there's always tickets. So Dave Matthews Band tickets are until and I say it always sells out. It all it always
Yeah.
sells, but life happens. That's the thing I'm trying to say. There's tickets for sale, and that's a big part of the Facebook groups and stuff, and we
Yeah.
love those. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's like 1,025 Facebook
Yeah.
groups about various things. Like each state has their own thing. So and then that's a great way to meet people before you go to a
Yeah.
concert. It's kind of like a virtual meetup, if you will. It's also a great place to get a lot of education about the band if you're into that kind of stuff. If you like to dig, like, how in the world have they made it 33 years? Or like, hey, this is not the Dave Matthews Band that I remember. Like, I remember they looked a little different back in 1991. Hey, you know what? I got 1,000 people that'd like to have a podcast about that right now. So there's just like an unlimited of things you can find out about the band. So I really encourage you, if you're looking to get connected in the community, but are a little nervous to just show up at a show, definitely look into those groups, because it is a very safe place. We're all pretty safe behind our keyboards, and again, the admins do such a great job of making sure there's no bullshit, right? Like, because
Yeah.
we're about love and all that, and as best as you can, right? Like, there's just going to be people that can hack the system and go through, and there's no way. People have full-time jobs. We'd
Yeah.
like to say that our Dave Matthews Band stuff is our full-time job, but it is not. We all got lives, so shit happens, right? So, but these sites are really good places to get connected. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I
but
agree.
I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing your heart. It's I don't, listeners, how I run this show is I don't hear the story before I interview someone, and so because I want there to be an element of surprise, I think that it cues questions that maybe it wouldn't cue if you've already heard it, and so that's kind of the style I do on this. But there was a moment when you were talking that I was like, oh fuck, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this because it's so real for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful to be able to use my small, tiny little platform for something that is just so, so needed. And I'm so thankful to have found that in you. So
Oh,
thank you so much.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I think it's just vital to share stories, to share experiences so other people feel less
Yeah.
alone.
Yes.
Eliminating shame means people live longer. Just
Yes.
just works out that way. So
Yes.
the the part of that evolution in talking about it, I I can do it. I am good. Also, as a trauma survivor, I have a wicked sense of humor. So, what I find funny probably isn't funny to a
Right. No,
lot of
I get
people.
that. That's me.
But yeah, but the other part of that is being able to have those kinds of intimate conversations in a way that still brings in love of a band, love of
Yes.
your podcast. That itself is a way to normalize people's experiences so they feel also less alone in the world. So the gift that you gave to me tonight is being able to share my story, to be able to talk about Safe in Harm's Way, but also to talk about the healing that goes along with music and finding community,
Yeah.
because that's the thing. And if you are somebody who loves music and you're suffering and you're feeling all alone, and to talk about that Facebook group seems like this big. The reality is it's ginormous. So
Yes.
if people could go on and start to build community by looking at a Facebook group and plugged in like Dave Matthews Band plus Europe, Dave Matthews Band plus Missouri, Dave Matthews Band plus Arkansas, you're going to find all of these community with a set of people that you can start to integrate yourself with, especially if you've been marginalized and dismantled from the inside out. It's a perfectly free way to find some friends. So
Yes.
while what you're doing as a podcast seems, well, it's a podcast, but the reality is if you look at the guests that you've had, if you've looked at the stories they've shared, there is an elevated belief in the power of love. And whether you call that also related to creator, I like to say creator, some people say God, some people, whatever you call a higher power, if you feel as if you are alone and marginalized, that is a sign that you are not. And your podcast does that. And so I think that's part of something to drive home that might seem not as played up and elevated to the extent of which it changes and saves lives, but it does.
It
So
does.
that's the part that bringing this together makes it viable for people to share their stories. And then anybody who comes across it, we're back to feeling less alone again.
That's right. You're never alone, ever, ever, ever. And so, yeah, thank you. I am just so grateful for this opportunity. And, I like to say this kind of stuff happens really all because it was supposed to, but also because of a band, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all because of music, all because something that continues to change lives. I'm going to say it saves lives. It's making people happier, and that is changing lives. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
your belief of changing lives is. It can be so many things that may look small to you, but sometimes people just need to smile.
Yeah.
Sometimes people can't have nothing to smile about, or what may seem not. We're always breathing, baby. We're always breathing, and that's
Yeah.
something to be thankful for. But there's a lot of times in our life where we just don't think of anything that we have at that moment that can make us smile. Sometimes music can be that thing because it seems familiar, right? Like
Yeah.
you can get it from something very impersonal like your phone or a radio. It's free, like you said earlier, like it's an easy friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then that friend introduces you to wait, is it in real life IRL thing that's happening? Boy, I circled all the way around, didn't
You
I?
closed it.
Yeah. I don't even know how I did that. Probably because I'm super high right now. So that's when I get creative. So yes, oh my God, what a compliment. Thank you so much. That's, from my nurse heart, that is, I started this podcast because of my mental health, because of what COVID did to me. And I'm not going to talk about that. If you want to know more about that, there's some podcasts about that. But that, this is something that I just knew had to be documented, is is what I was experiencing. But then I found so much comfort in knowing that I wasn't the only one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this podcast is about. So thank you so much for coming and sharing how in the world you found the Dave Matthews Band. That was so country right then. How in the world you met the Dave Matthews Band. I don't know.
Your
Sometimes
Arkansas.
It just,
Your Arkansas
oh my
is
God.
coming out.
I don't know what happened.
Lovely.
I don't know what happened. Oh my God, I need to pull it together. But that's cool. We don't even
It's
edit
beautiful.
that out. No, it's so country. But anyways, yes, a band that we love so much, and it continues to save lives. So guys, be sure to stay tuned. Every week we have a new guest on to share their journey and their personal story of what the Dave Matthews Band community has done for them. But also we talk a lot about the music because it's a band that we love to talk about. And there's an unlimited amount of things. Believe me, there's some rabbit holes, and we would be happy to jump down them with you. So,
and we'll be happy to provide you a 5-page educational list and yell at your ability to understand a song from a bathroom stall.
yes,
Like all of it.
yes. And I mean, and big quotation or big parentheses after that, and he say, I don't know most things about the Dave Matthews Band, but I know some things about them. And so obviously I'm not a perfectionist. I don't know everything, and I'm always willing to learn. So if you want to be on this show and share your journey with the Dave Matthews Band, and if you want to bring some education to the table, hey, I am ready to receive your Dave Matthews Band. But I do like, I love to share your stories because everyone found this band at a different time in a different place because you're a different person, and what that journey has looked like, because every single one of our journeys look different. But the one thing that remains the same is music brought us all together. And I love that story. So guys, thanks for staying tuned. Be sure to like us on all the social media pages. We're on everything. Facebook, which is a group, so you gotta find that group. Instagram. We're on TikTok if you want to see me make ridiculous memes about the Dave Matthews Band that I just think are hilarious, and I think 12 other people do too. But like, I love it, and I don't care. So, that's a great way to see who's coming up. We've got some great guests coming up, and like I said, every week is a new beautiful story about how this band changed lives. So guys, stay tuned, and in the meantime, like I always say, peace, love, and Dave Matthews Band. Thank you so much, Caroline.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Renae. Thank you so much.